It's October the 30th. Let's read the Bible. Friends, welcome back to this year-long journey from Genesis to Revelation in just 1 year. So glad to have you with us. We are almost to the end of October, 2 more months and a couple of days, and we will have reached our goal of reading all the way through the Bible in 1 year. Now, we have been in the book of Jeremiah and just finished it yesterday. And following the great book of Jeremiah is a little book, one that, there's one part of it everybody knows well, and the rest of it we know hardly at all. This is the little book of Lamentations, written most probably by Jeremiah, though it doesn't contain his name. Jewish tradition tells us that Jeremiah was the author. This is Jeremiah sitting in the ruins, the literal ruins of Jerusalem, the great city of God. Now, the Babylonians are gone. The temple has been destroyed. The walls have been torn down. The corpses of the dead are everywhere. The city is in ruins. It is a desolate wasteland. And the question comes, oh God, how did it come to this? How did your city, the apple of your eye, the place where your presence dwelt in your temple, the temple Solomon built for you. Oh God, how did it come to this? There are 5 chapters in Lamentations. It's a great title. These are laments for the city. These 5 chapters, 4 of them are acrostic poems. That is to say, the chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 4 each have 22 verses apiece. And it's acrostic. There are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And so in chapter 1, the first verse begins with the first letter, second verse with the second letter, third verse with the third letter, and so on. So 22 letters, 22 verses, chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 4. Now, in chapter 3, there's 66 verses. Why? Because the first 3 verses, the first letter, second 3 verses, the second letter, and so on. There's no way to reflect that in the English translation, but I'm only telling you this so that you know it's written as a kind of a funeral dirge. It's to be read slowly and thoughtfully and with great emotion. And I think at least for the first 3 chapters, then maybe for the whole book, this chapter 1, verse 12, there's a question there. Is it nothing to you, all you who pass by? This is Jeremiah in his sadness, in his anger, in his frustration, in his despair, thinking about what has happened to Jerusalem. Is it nothing to you, you who pass by? Don't you care what has happened to this great city? We're going to take Lamentations in 2 days, chapters 1, 2, and 3 today, chapters 4 and 5 tomorrow, and I'm excited to say that Marlene is going to be reading for us today and tomorrow. So she's going to be reading from this Bible, this pulpit Bible that we used back in 1999 for the Bible reading marathon at Calvary Memorial Church in Oak Park. This particular translation is the 1984 edition of the New International Version. So, Marlene, I'm going to turn it over to you. Listen carefully as Marlene reads Lamentations 1, 2, and 3.
Today we come to the book of Lamentations, written by the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah is the author of 2 books that focus on one event, the destruction of Jerusalem. The book of Jeremiah predicts the destruction, and Lamentations looks back on the destruction. Lamentations is a funeral dirge for the fallen city of Jerusalem, but it is not without hope and encouragement. Tucked away in the middle of the book is the promise of God's faithfulness to his people who have rejected him. Lamentations shows us things we should lament over. People who reject the God who loves them. People who suffer because of their sinfulness. Injustice, poverty, war, and rebellion against God. Lamentations shows us what it means to grieve with God over things that really matter. Chapter 1. How deserted lies the city once so full of people. How like a widow is she, who was once great among the nations. She was queen among the provinces. She has now become a slave. Bitterly she weeps at night. Tears are upon her cheeks. Among all her lovers there is none to comfort her. All her friends have betrayed her. They have become her enemies. After affliction and harsh labor, Judah has gone into exile. She dwells among the nations. She finds no resting place. All who pursue her have overtaken her in the midst of her distress. The roads to Zion mourn, for no one comes to her appointed feasts. All her gateways are desolate. Her priests groan, her maidens grieve, and she is in bitter anguish. Her foes have become her masters. Her enemies are at ease. The Lord has brought her grief because of her many sins. Her children have gone into exile, captive before the foe. All the splendor has departed from the daughter of Zion. Her princes are like deer that find no pasture. In weakness they have fled before the pursuer. In the days of her affliction and wandering, Jerusalem remembers all the treasures that were hers in the days of old. When her people fell into enemy hands, there was no one to help her. Her enemies looked at her and laughed at her destruction. Jerusalem has sinned greatly. All who honored her despise her, for they have seen her nakedness. She groans and turns away. Her filthiness clung to her skirts. She did not consider her future. Her fall was astounding. There was none to comfort her. Look, O Lord, on my affliction, for the enemy has triumphed. The enemy laid hands on all her treasures. She saw pagan nations enter her sanctuary, those you had forbidden to enter her assembly. All her people groan as they search for bread. They barter for the treasures of the Lord to keep themselves alive. Look, O Lord, and consider, for I am despised. Is it nothing to you, all you who pass by? Look around and see. Is any suffering like my suffering that was inflicted on me, that the Lord brought me in the days of his fierce anger? From on high he sent fire, sent it down into my bones. He spread a net for my feet and turned me back. He made me desolate, faint all the day long. My sins have been bound into a yoke. By his hands they were woven together. They have come upon my neck, and the Lord has sapped my strength. He has handed me over to those I cannot withstand. The Lord has rejected all the warriors in my midst. He has summoned an army against me to crush my young men. In his winepress, the Lord has trampled the virgin daughter of Zion. This is why I weep, and my eyes overflow with tears. No one is here to comfort me, no one to restore my spirit. My children are destitute because the enemy has prevailed. Zion stretches out her hands, but there is no one to comfort her. The Lord has decreed for Jacob that his neighbors become his foes. Jerusalem has become an unclean thing among them. The Lord is righteous, yet I rebelled against his command. Listen, all you peoples, look upon my suffering. My young men and maidens have gone into exile. I called to my allies, but they betrayed me. My priests and my elders perished in the city while they searched for food to keep themselves alive. See, O Lord, how distressed I am. I am in torment within, and in my heart I am disturbed, for I have been most rebellious. Outside, the sword bereaves. Inside, there is only death. People have heard my groaning, but there is no one to comfort me. All my enemies have heard of my distress. They rejoice at what you have done. May you bring the day you have announced, so they may become like me. Let all their wickedness come before you. Deal with them as you have dealt with me because of all my sins. My groans are many, and my heart is faint. Chapter 2. How the Lord has covered the daughter of Zion with the cloud of his anger. He has hurled down the splendor of Israel from heaven to earth. He has not remembered his footstool in the day of his anger. Without pity, the Lord has swallowed up all the dwellings of Jacob. In his wrath, he has torn down the strongholds of the daughter of Zion. He has brought her kingdom and its princes down to the ground in dishonor. In fierce anger, he has cut off every horn of Israel. He has withdrawn his right hand at the approach of the enemy. He has burned in Jacob like a flaming fire that consumes everything around it. Like an enemy, he has strung his bow. His right hand is ready. Like a foe, he has slain all who were pleasing to the eye. He has poured out his wrath like fire on the tent of the daughter of Zion. The Lord is like an enemy. He has swallowed up Israel. He has swallowed up all her palaces and destroyed her strongholds. He has multiplied mourning and lamentation for the daughter of Judah. He has laid waste in his dwelling like a garden. He has destroyed his place of meeting. The Lord has made Zion forget his appointed feasts and her Sabbaths. In his fierce anger, he has spurned both king and priest. The Lord has rejected the altar and abandoned his sanctuary. He has handed over the enemy the walls of her palaces. They have raised a shout in the house of the Lord as on the day of an appointed feast. The Lord determined to tear down the wall around the daughter of Zion. He stretched out a measuring line and did not withhold his hand from destroying. He made ramparts and walls lament. Together they wasted away. Her gates have sunk into the ground. The bars he has broken and destroyed. Her king and her princes are exiled among the nations. The law is no more, and her prophets no longer find visions from the Lord. The elders of the daughter of Zion sit on the ground in silence. They have sprinkled dust on their heads and put on sackcloth. The young women of Jerusalem have bowed their heads to the ground. My eyes fail from weeping. I am in torment within. My heart is poured out on the ground because my people are destroyed, because children and infants faint in the streets of the city. They say to their mothers, "Where is bread and wine?" as they faint like wounded men in the streets of the city, as their lives ebb away in their mother's arms. What can I say for you? With what can I compare you, O daughter of Jerusalem? To what can I liken you, O virgin daughter of Zion? Your wound is as deep as the sea. Who can heal you? The visions of your prophets were false and worthless. They did not expose your sin to ward off your captivity. The oracles they gave you were false and misleading. All who pass your way clap their hands at you. They scoff and shake their heads at the daughter of Jerusalem. Is this the city that was called the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? All your enemies open their mouths wide against you. They scoff and gnash their teeth and say, "We have swallowed her up. This is the day we have waited for. We have lived to see it." The Lord has done what he planned. He has fulfilled his word, which he decreed long ago. He has overthrown you without pity. He has let the enemy gloat over you. He has exalted the horn of your foes. The hearts of the people cry out to the Lord, O wall of the daughter of Zion. Let your tears flow like a river day and night. Give yourself no relief, your eyes no rest. Arise, cry out in the night as the watches of the night begin. Pour out your heart like water in the presence of the Lord. Lift up your hands to him for the lives of your children who faint from hunger at the head of every street. Look, O Lord, and consider, whom have you ever treated like this? Should women eat their offspring, the children they have cared for? Should priest and prophet be killed in the sanctuary of the Lord? Young and old lie together in the dust of the streets. My young men and maidens have fallen by the sword. You have slain them in the day of your anger. You have slaughtered them without pity. As you summon a feast day, so you summoned against me terrors on every side. In the day of the Lord's anger, no one escaped or survived. Those I cared for and reared, my enemy has destroyed. Chapter 3. I am the man who has seen affliction by the rod of his wrath. He has driven me away and made me walk in darkness rather than light. Indeed, he has turned his hand against me again and again all day long. He has made my skin and my flesh grow old and has broken my bones. He has besieged me and surrounded me with bitterness and hardship. He has made me dwell in darkness like those long dead. He has walled me, and so I cannot escape. He has weighed me down with chains. Even when I call out or cry for help, he shuts out my prayer. He has barred my way with blocks of stone. He has made my paths crooked. Like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in hiding, he dragged me from the path and mangled me and left me without help. He drew his bow and made me the target of his arrows. He pierced my heart with arrows from his quiver. I became the laughingstock of all my people. They mock me in song all day long. He has filled me with bitter herbs and sated me with gall. He has broken my teeth with gravel. He has trampled me in the dust. I have been deprived of peace. I have forgotten what prosperity is. So I say, my splendor is gone, and all that I had hoped from the Lord. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I will remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore, I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man to bear the yoke while he is young. Let him sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him. Let him bury his face in the dust. There may yet be hope. Let him offer his cheek to the one who would strike him, and let him be filled with disgrace. For men are not cast off by the Lord forever. Though he brings grief, he will show compassion. So great is his unfailing love. For he does not willingly bring affliction or grief to the children of men, to crush underfoot all the prisoners in the land, to deny a man his rights before the Most High, to deprive a man of justice. Would not the Lord see such things? Who can speak and have it happen if the Lord has not decreed it? Is it not from the mouth of the Most High that both calamities and good things come? Why should any living man complain when he is punished for his sins? Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. Let us lift up our hearts and our hands to the God in heaven and say, we have sinned and rebelled, and you have not forgiven. You have covered yourself with anger and pursued us. You have slain without pity. You have covered yourself with a cloud so that no prayer can get through. You have made us scum and refuse among the nations. All our enemies have opened their mouths against us. We have suffered terror and pitfalls, ruin and destruction. Streams of tears flow from my eyes because my people are destroyed. My eyes will flow unceasingly without relief until the Lord looks down from heavens and sees. What I see brings grief to my soul because of all the women of my city. Those who were my enemies without cause hunted me like a bird. They tried to put an end to my life in the pit and threw stones at me. The waters closed over my head, and I thought I was about to be cut off. I called on your name, O Lord, from the depths of the pit. You heard my plea. Do not close your ears to my cry for relief. You came near when I called you, and you said, "Do not fear." O Lord, you took up my case. You redeemed my life. You have seen, O Lord, the wrong done to me. Uphold my cause. You have seen the depth of their vengeance, all their plots against me. O Lord, you have heard their insults, all their plots against me. What my enemies whisper and mutter against me all day long. Look at them, sitting or standing. They mock me in their songs. Pay them back what they deserve, O Lord, for what their hands have done. Put a veil over their hearts, and may your curse be on them. Pursue them in anger and destroy them from under the heavens of the Lord.
Thank you, sweetheart. What an amazing passage that is. You know, I'm just turning the pages here. You have the heaviness of this book. It's undeniably heavy. And then you come to this. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. For his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And there's that, now we all know that because of the hymn, but that next verse, I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore, I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Let me say it to you this way. When you can't do anything else, you can always wait on the Lord. When there's nothing you can do to fix the situation, when you're in the waiting room of life, when you're in God's waiting room, when you're in the literal waiting room at a hospital, when your marriage is on the ropes, or maybe it's collapsed, or your kids are in trouble, or maybe your loved ones have gone to jail, or you've lost your money, you've lost your job, when life has tumbled in all around you and it feels as if everything you've hoped for has come to nothing. It is, when you can't do anything else, you can do what Jeremiah did here, sitting amid the ruins of Jerusalem. You can wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Remember, God keeps time in his own way. He's never early. He's never late. Though it may sometimes seem that way, he's always right on time. God keeps time in his own way. God knows what he's doing. Even as the tears are falling, remind yourself, God knows what he's doing. Lord, it doesn't make any sense to me. I've lost everything. Let me say one other word, and then we'll wrap up for today. Just remember this. Just because it doesn't make sense to you doesn't mean it doesn't make sense to God. Just because you can't see the plan doesn't mean God doesn't have a plan. Just because you feel abandoned doesn't mean you've been abandoned. And we're going to see later on in the Old Testament, we're going to see God has a great plan for Israel. But at this low moment, right after 586 BC, Jeremiah, surveying the wreckage and the ruin brought on by the people's disobedience, he said, "It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Let him sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him." So if you're waiting today, I encourage you, wait with hope, wait with faith. If you have no words to say, simply say, "Lord, I am trusting in you." When we can't do anything else, we can always wait on the Lord. Now, that's it for today. I want you to go out and have a great day. Come back tomorrow. Marlene's going to read chapters 4 and 5, and I got a little story to tell you after she finishes the reading. So have a great day. Remember the goodness and faithfulness of the Lord. Wait on the Lord. Again, I say, wait on the Lord. Have a great day, folks. Come back tomorrow. We'll see you then.